I think he does an 8-year extension to end the noise. And I mean, does he play out the whole 8 years? I tend to believe he will be an Oiler for his entire career. But again, I think the quotes and that stuff, it's to put some pressure on the management more than it's to signal that he's unhappy.
Okay, let's bring in our dear friend from Oilers Nation, Daily Faceoff, just everything. The great Tyler Yaremchuk. Whenever I introduce him, I think of Jeff Merrick, esteeming him, because there was someone was mad at you online one day, and Jeff Merrick was like, Tyler Yaremchuk is one of the most talented young people in this business. Do you remember that?
I do, because he didn't tag me in the tweet. I would have liked the follower bump, Jeff.
What a bitch that guy is. Don't you? Oh, bad guy, huh?
No offense, Tyler. He's also said that about, I think, us. Like being like, oh, you guys do the best show. And like, we kind of do, but also like we're idiots and we don't know what the fuck we're doing. So just a grain of salt. You might not be the best.
Jeff Merrick is the best because
I'm also an idiot. Like that is very much in my head.
That's why we love you.
Sometimes I just keep podcasting after we're done podcasting. And if like I've bugged Pete enough, I'll throw something at Merrick, knowing that he's going to come up with the most brilliant response that I've never considered. And I fucking love him. So that's the Merrick discourse. We all like him. 10 thumbs up. Best to do it. Tyler, we brought you on because we do need to satisfy the talk about Connor McDavid not really giving the best press conference as it relates to his future in Edmonton. We've been off since that press conference happened. I've observed you melting down at people thinking that he's gone. You've been doing this since before this press conference even happened. We've talked privately about that fucking guy, Nick Alberga, in Toronto, where every time the Oilers lose a game, he's like, oh man, gotta think he's thinking about going to Toronto. He's not going to Toronto. But I do think it's fair to see what McDavid said and say, ugh, is he going to be an Oiler for life? Say your piece.
You call it melting down. I call it standing on business. Listen, he's not going anywhere. It's never been a question. I think all the people who are taking these little shots at Edmonton and coercing, going through every little word Connor McDavid said. Breaking news. Connor McDavid's not that good at public speaking. Have you ever listened to any one of his press conferences and came away from it being like, boy, that was a sharp intellectual thing that Connor McDavid said? And that's not to say he's not smart and all that, but like, come on, the guy gives boring cardboard press conferences. That's what he does. So should he have come out and like put his fist down and been like, I love being in Edmonton. I'm going to be an Oiler forever. I mean, it would have been great. It would have killed this whole narrative and this discourse. I'm sure Connor McDavid is annoyed that he started this whole thing online and there's all these people asking questions about his future. But when I look at what he said and he, priority number one is winning. Okay, he's on a team that's been to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. Like, how much closer can you get unless he wants to go jump ship and join the Florida Panthers? I keep hearing people being like, oh, maybe he'll reunite with Ken Holland in LA. And it's like, well, Ken Holland couldn't build a Stanley Cup winner with Connor and Leon. So what makes you think he's going to be able to do it, or McDavid will have the confidence that he could do it with just Connor in that equation? Like, he has a superstar running mate. He has, the comfort of being in Edmonton where he's now been for a decade. He talked about his family. Okay, him and his wife have bought millions of dollars of real estate in Edmonton over the last 18 months, 2 years. Let's connect the dots there. If they thought there was a slight chance that they were leaving Edmonton in 18 months, why would you do all that? You would probably just keep your money and not invest in a bunch of these businesses. Like, I think every sign away from the rink points to Connor McDavid staying here. Even look at Jeff Jackson. Jeff Jackson leaves the super agency world to run the Edmonton Oilers after being Connor McDavid's agent for basically a decade, basically watching Connor McDavid grow up. Does Jeff Jackson sign up to run the Edmonton Oilers if he thinks in 18 months Connor McDavid's putting up his hand and being like, I'm leaving the organization? There's no shot. Like, I just think people are grasping at straws when they try to do the whole Connor McDavid is leaving, because every actual tangible piece of evidence that we've seen over the last 2 years points to Connor McDavid wanting to be in Edmonton. Rant over.
So, I mean, like, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there, except that Connor McDavid is not like a thoughtful quote and doesn't know what he's doing when he gets behind a microphone. I think that he's very, very careful and very, very thoughtful when he speaks. But there's no part of you that's a little bit concerned that he opened the door. He opened the door, and there's no denying that. And I do think that he probably understood the consequences of opening the door before he opened it.
I think maybe it was done to, make that front office feel a little uncomfortable more than it was done to like send a message to the league that like, hey, I'm not thrilled here. Again, they've gotten to within 3 combined wins of winning the Stanley Cup now over the last 2 years. Like they're just as close as any other team could be, or as any other team has been of getting there over the last number of seasons. I think it was done more of a way to like really jolt the front office and be like, you guys better have a clear-cut plan when you come to me in a week and be able to tell me exactly how you plan on keeping this window open for the next 8 seasons. Because I'm also of the camp that like this isn't going to be a 2 or 3 year extension. I really think this is going to be a 5, 6, 7, or 8 year contract. I lean more towards the max. Because here's the other thing too. If you want me to give you like a little anti-Oilers take on all of this, everyone keeps saying that, oh, Connor McDavid I saw someone the other day, he could take a 1-year deal. No, he's not going to do that. Again, Connor McDavid hates the noise. He hates having to face all these questions. Why would he sign up or even run through this season as a pending free agent, knowing that all he would hear about for the next however long is, what are you doing next year? Are you leaving? All of this. I love that you guys have a dog on the show. That's hilarious.
His name's Johnny Lazarus.
But McDavid hates the noise. And like, I think he'll sign an 8-year deal. And guess what? If by year 3 of that contract, the Oilers are sputtering or it's not looking good, he just puts up his hand, or he walks into Stan Bowman's office and he says, I'm done. Trade me to LA. I'm done. Trade me to New York or Chicago or wherever he would want to go in that circumstance. Like, no player would have more power and ability to just put their hand up and say, I'm out of here, you're trading me, than Connor McDavid. So I think he does an 8-year extension to end the noise. And I mean, does he play out the whole 8 years? I tend to believe he will be an Oiler for his entire career. But again, I think the quotes and that stuff, it's to put some pressure on the management more than it's to signal that he's unhappy.
What if it's 8 years, what do you expect the number to look like? What do you think the number looks like? Because is he going to take the, unbelievably high maximizing his money deal, or is he leaving a bunch on the table to help build this team?
Here's what I haven't seen people talk about a lot, and I don't know if it's because it's unrealistic or if people are just more focused on the term and all of that. Is there a world where McDavid becomes the superstar who really takes advantage of the deferred money? Like we saw Seth Jarvis do a deferred money thing with Carolina. But if McDavid does say, I believe in the organization, I want to win a Stanley Cup, but I also want to get paid, would he defer a significant chunk of it to keep the AAV down? I'm curious about that. But no, I could see this being like, if I had to guess right now, he's going to want to be the highest paid player in the league. I think he probably feels some pressure to be the highest paid player in the league and kind of set that market. I could see on an 8-year deal, this thing being $17.5 million. Like, that's mind blowing. It's $3.5 million more than any player's got AAV wise right now. It would be significant. It'd be a lot of dollars in his pocket. And then I wonder if there's not like a deferred thing to maybe knock that down a few million. Of course, I'm not Puckpedia. I'm not a numbers wizard. I don't know how exactly all that math would work, but I'm just interested or curious as to why we haven't heard that conversation a bit more.
I'm almost willing to guarantee that if he signs a deferred money deal with the Oilers for 8 years, that within like 2 years, that the NHL will like ban.
No.
money.
I mean, he's only got a few months to do it because the next CBA is going to get rid of it. So like now would be the time to get it in. You are so goddamn lucky, Tyler, that my Photoshop is being slow because I'm trying to make a lower third that says Yaremchuk, McDavid, quote, boring, possibly dumb. So I know that you're not a McDavid guy, but a point that you make on the term, I think is smart, which is that he might give up money just to avoid a headache and go 8 years and say, the second I want to leave, I leave anyway. So, and I also think that I love Connor McDavid. I think that nobody owes him anything, et cetera, et cetera. There is a point term-wise where he'd be kind of being an asshole. Like, I would say that he should do like 4 years. 3 years is maybe welcoming a lot of conversation. If he goes like 1 year and it seems like he's holding the franchise hostage and says like, you better get me a Stanley Cup, that kind of seems ring chasey. And that's not what he's doing. So why would he do that, you know?
And I also think McDavid's been a guy you can go back to junior when he got drafted by the Erie Otters. And I mean, everyone at that time was like, he's not going to play in Erie. He's going to ask for a trade. He's always been, I think, very legacy aware and conscious of what people view him as. He doesn't want to have that kind of a reputation as being someone who, and again, this goes back to junior, but it follows him to the NHL when he signed an 8-year deal with the Oilers as quick as he could sign a full max term deal with the Edmonton Oilers. I don't think he likes the noise. I don't think he wants to give off that impression that he's ring chasing or whatever. So that's, again, why I think it's an 8-year deal. And like in the grand scheme of Connor McDavid's career earnings, could he do a 4-year deal at $15.5 million and then in 4 years when the cap shoots up a bunch, go and sign an 8-year deal then at $20 million? Like, yeah, he could. But at the end of his career, we're talking about what? Maybe $6-7 million total, which sounds like a gross amount of money, but that to Connor McDavid it's probably not worth the headache at that point, if you kind of get what I'm saying. So I think we'll see another max term deal here. It'll run him till he's 37, 38 years old. And the other thing too is Leon Draisaitl did the max term last summer. Like, these guys are best friends off the ice. Do you really think Leon Draisaitl was like, I'm doing the 8-year thing in Edmonton? Because again, there would have been a case for him to take a 3-4 year deal and be a free agent again at 32 years old. He signed that contract when it was still flat cap world, right? Would Draisaitl have signed 8 years if he didn't think Connor McDavid wasn't just going to do the same thing the next summer?
Here's the thing. He can Paul George himself if he wants. If McDavid leaves, he can say, all right, I'm out of here. And they would get everything for Leon Draisaitl. I'm seeing people like, hey, what would a trade package for Connor McDavid look like? And every single one you look at, you're like, that's the worst trade in the world. Like, there's nothing, there's no trade that the Oilers could win trading Connor McDavid. Like, Draisaitl would kind of look like that too. But if McDavid leaves, I would not be surprised if Draisaitl's like, get me out of here. But that's a cross the bridge when you get to it. I would be
surprised by that, because to me, and I think I talked about this last week, to me, that signifies Leon like jumping ship and abandoning his boy. So and his boy being the Edmonton Oilers, which like, I think that Leon has enough confidence in himself to be the guy. Like, if Connor leaves, I think Leon will embrace being the guy. He doesn't need to be it, but I don't think he's afraid to be it.
That's a good point. That would be Robin behavior. And we roll our eyes every time someone calls Leon Draisaitl a Robin. That was it. TSN that put out the like, is he the best sidekick of all time? And we're like,
he's too good to be a sidekick.
Like,
to be considered a sidekick.
And it would be sidekick behavior, yes, to say, okay, it's being broken up, so I guess I'm gone too. Let's switch gears to Evan Bouchard. 1-year deal is something that has been kicked around by, I want to say, Chris Johnston, and he's got until July 5th to elect arbitration. And if he does that, he gets a lot of money, obviously, because his arbitration case is unbelievable. What would you do with Bouchard if you're the Oilers? Would you sign him long-term, or would you say, let's go short-term when Elliott said this morning, that's still going to cost you $10 million a year?
Yeah. Also, I believe once he elects for arbitration, he's then ineligible for an offer sheet as well. So that means if a team were to jump in on the offer sheet market, they only have until July 5th. And to your point, Evan Bouchard's arbitration case is so strong that there is no world he does not try to take advantage of arbitration, or at least leave that as a threat, because his arbitration number probably gets him in the high 9s. You're right. If they were to sign him to, let's say, a 3-year deal that walks him, 1 or 2 years past unrestricted free agency, that probably still costs you $10 million or 9.5. So if you're the Oilers and Bouchard says, okay, you want to go short term, 3 years, it's 9.5, or an 8-year deal is 10.5. I mean, what are we doing here, right? Like, that's barely the cost of a league minimum player. Just sign the guy for the full 8 years and actually get the benefit of, in years 4, 5, 6, and 7 of that contract, there's going to be 15 defensemen maybe making more money than him by that point. Like, with the cap shooting up, I think the sticker shock on a lot of extensions and contracts is going to continue to surprise us. And I think teams should always be pushing for more term right now. So I wouldn't be thinking about a 3-4 year deal with Bouchard. I'd be going max term on him as well. I also think that's a great way if you want to point to Connor McDavid and be like, look at what we're doing to keep our competitive window going. You sit there and go, we have you, McDavid, that is, Draisaitl, and Bouchard all signed for the next 8 seasons. Like,
don't forget Trent Frederick.
I was going to say Trent Frederick.
Don't forget Trent Frederick.
That's probably a big part of this as well. But like, you can sit there and point to the nucleus and the biggest pieces and be like, we have cost certainty as the cap keeps shooting up. Connor, we're going to be good for the next couple of years, and then we're going to have cap space after that to continue to build around you. Like, I think going 8 years with Evan Bouchard is the smart play. Am I going to be wincing when I see $10.3 million come in as the AAV? Yeah, I'm going to be wincing a little bit, but it's better than the alternative, and that's not having Evan Bouchard on your team.
And you're not trading Darnell Nurse.
I would love to trade Darnell Nurse. Full no movement clause. He loves the guys in that room. He's been in the city now for 10 years. Is there a world where Darnell Nurse waves? I don't see it. And I know people point to like, oh, well, Pierre-Luc Dubois, they got him to wave out of LA. Like, yeah, that's because he didn't like it there and it wasn't a fit. People can point to a whole, like Seth Jones. Okay, but that's unique because Seth Jones was on a garbage team and then had a chance to go play in Florida and be on a Stanley Cup contender. Like, is there a Stanley Cup contender who's going to put up their hand and be like, we'll take Darnell Nurse off your hands? And is that a spot Darnell Nurse would want to go? Like, I just don't see a realistic path to Darnell Nurse not being an Oiler next season or convincing him to waive.
I think the path opens up when the team tells you that they don't want you. Like, he loves Edmonton. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he loves the group. But at the end of the day, if a team tells you or signifies to you they don't really want you, I think that changes the way you think about things.
But, and again, like, where would he, if the Oilers were like, we don't want you here, we're trading you to Columbus, like, would Darnell Nurse just be like, oh, damn, like, I feel bad? Like, I think you still would have to find like a competitive team that he would want to go to. Like, the one thing I kicked around on the show the other day, I'm not sure how realistic it is. I don't even think it makes the Oilers better. But like, if you went to Darnell Nurse and we're like, hey, Toronto's giving us Morgan Rielly, do you want to go play back home? He's from Hamilton. Okay, like maybe that's the type of trade we're looking at here, where there's someone on another competitive team who's grossly overpaid, who you go to Darnell Nurse and say, you need a fresh start. We want a different vibe. Let's do this swap. But like, are the Oilers better with Morgan Rielly than Darnell Nurse? I'm not totally sold on that.
And I don't think that he needs a fresh start. I think that the biggest thing is, you brought up on Oilers Nation, what are you attaching to him? And then are you done making moves for the next couple of years? If you say, here's our 2027 first round pick, take Darnell Nurse and like eat the whole contract, you can't get anybody at the deadline. Then you're Florida minus the Stanley Cups.
Yeah, like without a doubt. Like, it would probably take more than, like, the Leafs paid a first round pick to get out of 1 year of Patrick Marleau's contract. What do you have to pay to get out of 6 more years? It is 5 more years of Darnell Nurse. Like, it'd be disgusting. Like, you just don't have the ability to do that. You're way better off crossing your fingers, finding him a good partner, which maybe they have with Jake Wallman. Maybe Wallman playing on the right side with Nurse. Maybe they can find a way to vibe next year. I just think you're way better off trying to find Darnell Nurse a proper partner and properly slotting him on your roster than you are chasing your tail, trying to be like, okay, Matt Savoy in a first, and then maybe we can get out of Nurse, but we still have to take a bad contract. Like, it's just so messy.
Yeah, I think that they need to try Savoy and Sam O'Reilly and like even Hudson. Like they need to see if some of those young guys can actually be stars, because like McDavid's got to be absolutely jonesing for that after the double offer sheets last year. We'll ask
Not
about
even stars, just like usable players.
Yeah, like again, like what the Chicago Blackhawks used to do. Like that was the model for me. Like pay your stars and have your fourth line be a bunch of guys on entry-level contracts who are good players. We'll get you out on goalie talk, but first I want to ask, am I crazy for kind of thinking about Matthias Ekholm as a possible guy to move out?
I don't know if it's a possible guy to move out, but I'm really curious about his injury. I had heard things from the first round of the playoffs that like, hey, there's not a hope in hell this guy's playing, and there's not a hope there might be a shot he's not ready for next year, and like who knows what next year could look like for him. Obviously he came back, but we saw what he looked like. If he really needs a big groin surgery and it's something that's going to keep him out long term, maybe he's a guy who's on LTIR for the bulk of next season. Again, like I don't think you trade him.
They should try that. The league will be down.
Well, you can just schedule the surgery to like, oh, whoops, we were hoping that he would be able to get going for the start of the season. Schedule the surgery so that it carries through the end of the year.
That's Jesus.
Do you think they could? There's no precedent for it, but I think they could pull it off.
I mean, yeah, I've never heard that one before. And like, I mean, that's what's so dumb about the Oilers being investigated for the Evander Kane thing is like Nikita Kucherov sat on a stage wearing a $19.5 million over the cap shirt, and the league was like, whoop. And Evander Kane does it. He had 2 surgeries during the year, and the league's like, hold on, we got to look into this. Which again, it's Evander Kane. I'm not feeling bad.
What kind of allegations are you leveraging right now?
Interesting.
Go on.
I also
Nikita
think
Kucherov, famously not black.
Out.
Yeah.
We think people might be cheating, might be fudging the cap. I mean, Matt Tkachuk was just magically out of the lineup for like a couple of months for Florida and was ready to play game 1. Meanwhile,
it sounds like maybe you're
the NHL racist.
All right, let's get to the goalie talk now, huh? Who do you want to be your goalie next year?
I think Stu Skinner sticks around on that note. But no, I really do think Stu Skinner sticks around. I think they find a better partner for him. It's probably going to have to come on the trade market because I think Jake Allen probably gets a little bit too much money from someone who has more space than the Edmonton Oilers. And like, I don't know, are you signing Anton Forsberg? Like that doesn't seem like a good way to kill the narrative that your team doesn't have a goalie capable of winning a Stanley Cup. Like, I think they go trade market. I like Demko, but an in-division trade is probably unlikely. I like Gibson if the Ducks are willing to keep some of the money. Frank says Hofer's available on the trade market. He's not experienced, but he has the upside. There's just not very many good names. Like, it's such a frustrating spot to be in because, again, I think giving up on 26-year-old Stuart Skinner is a bad idea. I think you play out the last year of this contract with him and see what he does in his 27-year-old season, and you just put someone more reliable in as his partner. Gibson would be fine depending on the cost. I would really push hard for Demko, but it's a crappy market. Maybe you can convince Marc-Andre Fleury he doesn't actually want to retire.
I was I was rollerblading and listening to Stan Bowman's press conference because that's how I do it. And when he said the thing about goalies, I was like, he's fucking right. Which is, someone was like, hey, what are you gonna do about your goalies? Like, this is 2 years in a row that goalies is better. And he was like, it's 2 years in a row that we had the better goalie in every series we played except for one. And I'm like, yeah, but Stu's reached a point where what happens if they keep Stu Skinner? He has a great year and you go into the playoffs and you're like, is Connor McDavid mad that Stuart Skinner is the goalie again? And then Stu has a bad game at some point, and then Stu is better than Jake Ottinger for a series, and Stu's, but like, we've just seen this happen so many times, but it seems that the faith will never permanently be there. And the trust will never permanently be there. So they have to make it, and I love Stu, but they have to make it so when they go into the postseason next year, they know who their goalie is. And unfortunately, for them, not for me, but for them, it can't be Stu.
I just think that's why you need to get someone who, again, like a Gibson or a Demko, where their high end is clearly so much better than Skinner's, because then you could sit there, and if there is a world where Stu Skinner is your starter game 1 of next year's playoffs, it's because, and again, this is probably how you have to point to Connor McDavid and justify it. It's like, Connor, Stu Skinner was better than John Gibson for 45 starts this year. We have to roll with them. Like, you have to just be so sure of it that you're right. It can't be a scenario where, like, again, because I heard the name Anton Forsberg and I heard the name Alex Lyon earlier in the week or early last week. It's like,
you said that like it was a slur.
I mean, Alex Lyon is the reason that the Florida Panthers are what they are, because they don't get into the playoffs that first year where they make it to the Stanley Cup final without Alex Lyon. So put some goddamn respect on his name.
Panthers are such frauds, man. They got so fucking lucky at the beginning of this thing.
Oh, if Brad Marchand, I've seen that clip. If Brad Marchand scores on that one breakaway, whatever it was.
Oh, he's talking about 3 years. Oh, yeah. 3 years ago. Yeah. Against Florida. Yeah.
2 absolute Mickey Mouse championships. In all seriousness, like, they should, and Zach Phillips had a good thing on the sheet. Like, there's so many things that lead you to how did the Panthers get here? And it's crazy.
I mean, over a 3-year run, every team gets lucky, and there are those moments that you can point to. But yeah,
Mickey Mouse double champs.
I've been saying the Oilers need a higher ceiling other goaltender
Yes,
for
I agree.
so long.
Yeah.
I've been saying it since before the trade deadline. It's what I wanted them to do at the trade deadline. Like I never thought that you needed the guy who kicked Stuart Skinner out of town, but you needed a guy who made Stuart Skinner uneasy, or well, more uneasy than Stuart Skinner makes himself. But
And just had a very high floor because
you needed a guy to push him.
You talked about ceiling, you like a higher end ceiling with Stu. I am never worried about the ceiling with Stu,
right?
Because the ceiling with Stu has been, I mean, Bowman wasn't there for it, but Stu had actually, no, he was better in game one, but like Stu, for the balance of that cup final in 2024, outperformed Sergei Bobrovsky. His ceiling is certainly not the best in the league, but we've seen him consistently be really, really good until he's not good, and then he's not good at all. So I'm fine with Stu's ceiling, believe you me. It's the floor that is so down low.
It does not exist.
So the whatever
the floor
opposite,
is invisible.
The floor does not exist. So yeah, I agree with Pete. You need a high floor guy, and that's not Stu. That's a backup, or it's a 1A, 1B.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. I think that's why, like, again, a lot of people have like the Joel Hofer idea where like he's another unproven goalie. How can you trust him? And I saw something like, look at Ville Husso. He had a couple good years in St. Louis. He went somewhere else, got paid, and then he was garbage. And there is risk if you were to go with the younger option and like a Hofer or whatever. But I also look at it and go, okay, he's put together a handful of decent seasons in St. Louis, and like that's a guy who probably gives you a higher floor than Stuart Skinner did. Like they just need more balance. And again, that's why Stan Bowman's getting paid to be the GM of this team. Like he's got to figure out who can be that guy and what assets are worth giving up. Because that's the other flip side is like you have maybe 2 decent forward prospects in your system. And as you pointed out, you need those guys to pan out and be NHLers for you. They can't just be trade chips. And the other side is $11.9 million in cap space right now. You need to give Bouchard at least 10 of that. Trent Frederick needs 3.8 of it somehow. Like you can't go take John Gibson at full board for $6 million. Like you just can't afford to do that with the way your cap structure is. So that's the other thing that complicates all this is you need someone who is very good and also doesn't cost a lot of assets and also doesn't have a high cap hit. That's tough to find.
It's not an easy bit of work. That's for sure.
I can't believe they got Frederick for only $3.8 million. Tidy bit of work
for all 8 years too. That's crazy.
That's a cap going up.
8-year deal, max term for everybody. Everybody coming off the books for the Edmonton Oilers. You love to see it.
Tyler, we're very fortunate you came on with us. You always give us enlightening and slightly enraged takes from time to time, so that was very good. Thank you, my friend. Are we? You do it every day during the summer, yes?
No, we go down to 3 days a week, starting the week after free agency. So we're still 5 days a week this week, and then we'll slowly knock it down a little bit. Let Liam get up to his usual nonsense in the summer when there's no hockey. If you think he's unhinged during the season, Liam, when there's no hockey to talk about, it's not a hockey show.
He's the best. He was made for moments like this. Thank you so much, Tyler. We love you.
Yeah, sorry for calling Connor McDavid dumb. Didn't mean to. See you, boys.
We all silly like the mayor.
I've seen a lot of complaints amongst the Bruins fandom that like, oh, boys club promoting within the family or whatever, like staying within the organization, their guys. Does this have that stink to you? Because it really doesn't to me.
Let's talk Boston Bruins in their coaching search, because we saw yesterday there were reports that it was down seemingly to Jay Woodcroft and Marco Sturm. Late on Wednesday evening, our friend Cam Robinson tweets that it looks like Marco Sturm is going to be the next head coach of the Boston Bruins. There's wiggle room there in that it can be interpreted as eventually Marco Sturm will be named head coach of the Boston Bruins. Elliot Friedman reported this morning, late last night, that essentially things are looking very good for Marco Sturm to become the next head coach of the Bruins, but that he is due in Boston on Friday to meet with the team again. So it seems it's not official. It seems it's not definite, but the way I funnel that all in and I press enter, and the calculator tells me Marco Sturm's probably the next head coach of the Bruins.
Probably. More
Probably.
likely than not.
We don't know. More likely than not. I would be surprised if it were Woodcroft at this point, but we don't know because it hasn't happened yet, and they're still due to have, I don't know what this meeting is, whether it's another interview or whatever, but former Bruin, Winter Classic great, famous German, Ontario Reign head coach, Marco Sturm, could be your next head coach of the Bruins.
Did the Bruins win the Joe Thornton trade?
Did they? He was the centerpiece with that. I would honestly say that Brad Stewart was the centerpiece, but Marco Sturm, a first-round pick, I want to say 1996 of the Sharks. Good player, just like a 20-goal guy. He'd get you 20. Great memory I have was when the Bruins dumped him to L.A. Peter Chiarelli told us that the press release said future considerations. Peter Chiarelli said, I know it says future considerations, but it's nothing. Yeah, any questions? And the great, now late Mike Loftus was like, you can trade a guy for nothing? And he was like, yeah, kind of. He was like, they don't have to give you, like the CBA lets you do that. And eventually Chiarelli was like, it was kind of the, I think you should leave. Like, oh yeah, it was like a hit and run thing. And then like the more questions he gets asked about it, he's like, if you keep asking me about this, I'm gonna like. I think Chiarelli realizing like, fuck, like, am I not allowed to say that I just did a trade for nothing?
That's what the Vegas Golden Knights did with Marc-Andre Fleury. They traded him for like future considerations. Then they named a player later, and then like gave him back later. So it was literally for nothing.
Man,
oh yeah.
It's
salary cap's a hell of a drug, isn't it?
It's crazy. I did ask around a little bit about like, because I don't know anything about Marco Sturm as a head coach, and I'm not going to pretend to, but I've asked about it, and from all accounts, from the people that I've asked, he is beloved with his players.
That would not surprise me. I knew him a little when he was in Boston, and he was the nicest, friendliest guy. I don't know if that means that he's a like players coach per se. I think we need to do maybe a little more digging there or get some people in the know, but would not surprise me at all that anybody who works with him thinks that he's the salt of the earth, because I only covered him for half a year before he was traded for nothing, but very, very nice guy. Hockey players are very, very nice guys, though. So
can I ask you this? Yeah. I've seen a lot of complaints amongst the Bruins fandom that like, oh, boys club, going promoting within the family or whatever, like staying within the organization, their guys. Does this have that stink to you? Because it really doesn't to me.
No, I think that he has a Bruins connection, but I think that it is like kind of like the Patriots hiring Mike Vrabel. Vrabel has more bona fides at this point, but
he's been elsewhere.
He's from his own coaching tree.
Right.
This isn't an assistant on Claude Julien's staff. He's a guy who played for Claude Julien, but it's not like you're bringing back one of his assistants. It's not that to me. I think that if this were Jay Leach, I would say absolutely. But the biggest thing it tells me is that they were having a hard time finding a head coach, like a guy, a bulletproof candidate. Mm-hmm. Instead, they're getting a first-time NHL head coach, which I think is fine because I don't think the Bruins are going to be great the next few years anyway. Sean, did you show the picture? Do we have a picture of Marco Sturm for people who don't know what he looks like? There's a picture of Marco. Look at him. What a nice guy.
Some German royalty right there.
That is a picture taken by Gene Principe of Marco Sturm and the great young Leon Draisaitl. Look how perfectly that tie falls on Leon. That is just about to hit the top of the pan. That you cannot get a more perfect tie length than that.
Well, length, yes. He needs to get the tail tucked back in.
Yeah, a little sloppy there, but he looks like a young man.
It's crazy. Leon doesn't strike me as somebody who was ever young. Yeah. I feel like he's had his beard and his look forever.
He's got some baby fat on him there.
Yeah, it was a young boy.
Someone who is new to Leon Draisaitl, not new anymore, said that they recently watched a video called like Leon Draisaitl being grumpy, and it was like 7 minutes long.
I'm surprised it was that short.
And I was like, I'm gonna have to check this out. I guarantee I have seen every part of it. Have sent it to Pete over the years. I don't mind this hire. I don't hate this hire. I think that it's like it's a mix between like Gerard Mayo hire in that it's a first time, like, do we know, like, what's this guy actually going to be? We both have said we don't really know what he is as a coach. And some of the Mike Vrabel where it's, of course, Bruins ties, but got outside, saw the world, studied abroad.
I'm a little disappointed based off my expectations heading into the offseason with the coaching carousel, the names that were out there. Like I would have liked an established name, like a sexy name, like a Mike Sullivan, or even a Joel Quenneville would have been exciting here in Boston, or like a sexier new name like David Carl. Like one of those guys would really probably move the needle more than Marco Sturm. But like at the same time, I'm going to give the guy a chance. If he ends up being the hire, I'm going to give him a chance to prove that he's a good head coach. Like Marty St. Louis was plucked off the street to coach the Montreal Canadiens and has turned out to be an awesome coach for them. So who am I to be like, oh, this guy can't coach. He's never coached in the NHL before. Not the right guy for the job. I'm going to give him a chance. People seem to like him. And I don't think it's the Bruins are hiring their like one of their former players. This isn't hiring Patrice Bergeron.
We haven't talked about Marco Sturm in
he's not
1,000 years, and we talk about the Bruins literally every day on
He's
the show.
not hanging around the building waiting to get given an opportunity to coach this team. So, and from what I've heard, they have interviewed a lot of people. They've interviewed a lot of people for this job.
Which is unlike them, so at least they're doing that. Someone in the chat says, it's Sturm, not Sturm. I was waiting for someone to say that. No, it's Sturm.
We get to
German.
We get to pronounce words however we want to.
I mean, I guess you technically can. That's not really how like the German alphabet works. Like if it was Sturm, there would be a CH in there.
Sean, have you been in the chat lately?
Well, no, but yes, I have. People are saying that, telling me they're saying,
I just
fuck you.
saw happy birthday, Sean. Fuck you.
That was because he said that I sound like a guy who gets chased out of house parties, which is not true. I don't get invited to house parties. And then someone says,
I'd invite you to a house party for sure.
I appreciate it. I actually would be a good time at a house
for
party.
sure, not sure.
But, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
So it's I say Sturm because I talked to a German guy who knew him.
It's
called
fun,
him Marco
but like,
Sturm, and I've had that in my head since.
Like, yeah, I mean, it is just STURM, so it would just be Sturm. But like,
there is a lot of those where it's like, how far are you going to go? Like, if we want to be real, Chara's last name is Hara.
Yeah,
like, are we going to do that?
And I mean, there's also plenty of guys like Mikael Granlund. He's said that he doesn't care if people say Michael. But that's not
Mikael
so
is such a better name than Michael.
I agree, but I understand it's probably a common story amongst foreigners who just get tired of Americans butchering their shit and they're just like fucking whatever. I mean, I do that with my last name. People mispronounce my last. People love saying Deepaz.
I think it's David Pastrnak, right?
It's Pasternak.
Pasternak.
We all silly like the mayor.
But I also do believe that there are things that the league can do in the next CBA to maybe even the playing field a little bit.
Exactly. It's a reason. It's not the reason.
Potential transition to our next topic. I don't know if you saw breaking news. 33-year-old Yanni Gourde signed a 6-year contract extension with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
That is crazy. I mean, I love Yanni Gourde, the player.
What's the
2.33? So that's probably part of the trade-off is they longer term for lower AAV, but still.
Cap's going up.
He's 33 years old.
Nothing. But still, that's 6-year deal for a 33-year-old.
Okay, well then let's discuss this hot button issue. The tax situation. The tax situation. State income free teams is how you would put it. This is now 6 straight years of a Florida team which has no state income tax, reaching the Stanley Cup final. 7 of the last 9 Stanley Cup finals have featured a team with no state income tax, because you remember the 2016-17 Predators were in the Stanley Cup final, and it has led to discussion about, well, players go to Florida or players go to Tampa because they don't have to pay state income tax. You make more money. You don't have to pay as much money in taxes when you play for one of those teams. And I did a little breakdown using, I forget the tool. It should be on there, right? The Cardinal Point Tax Calculator. A $10 million salary adjusted for income tax in the state of Florida, $6.34 million is what you take home. $5.03 million is what you would take home in California. In New York State, $4.89 million. Even less if it's New York City because they also have like city income tax. And in Ontario, $4.69 million is what you would take back. So in a lot of these cases, you are taking back, and obviously it varies from state to state, but these are 4 ones that I found most interesting. Florida or Tennessee or wherever, you're taking home so much more. And I know that not everybody makes $10 million a year, but let's say you're making $6 million a year. Over the course of a contract, you are saving millions of dollars to play in Florida versus someplace else. So I don't know where you fall on this. A lot of people think that it's overblown. I do not. What do you think?
I think that it certainly gives teams an advantage when you're talking about a sales pitch to a free agent or whatever it may be, keeping players around. I have a problem with the argument being like the reason why there's been a team from Florida in the Stanley Cup final for the last handful of years is because they don't have state income tax. I think that is it's disrespectful to the people who build those teams. It's disrespectful to the minds in the building. It's disrespectful to the players themselves. Like, I don't like taking away from those teams, but I also do believe that there are things that the league can do in the next CBA to maybe even the playing field a little bit.
Exactly. It's a reason. It's not the reason. And I don't put it like top 3. And like when you think of like why, what are the reasons that they're there? If you're talking about roster construction, a lot of it is just having people who are smart at building teams and knowing which guys to move, which guys to keep. There are players that you can definitely tie to Florida and say part of why they were able to get them or part of why they're able to get them for that price is no state income tax. Sam Reinhart took a team-friendly deal. Matthew Tkachuk goes from Calgary to Florida. Just wanted out of Calgary, we think, but you think he was thrilled to get to Florida? I do, when they're a good team. The other side of that is there was once upon a time, and I remember it well, when we used to talk about no state income tax with Florida teams as, well, at least guys who have to play there get this little advantage, or this little advantage might not be the right word, but like it makes up for the fact that they have to play on this non-competitive team that is not getting huge crowd support from home fans. I remember a time in the late, let's say 2008, 2009, 2010-ish area where players who came from Florida would tell you, you know, a lot of times the fans that are in the stands, I remember Gregory Campbell, who works for the Panthers now, telling me this. Like a lot of times the fans that are in the stands are maybe like a visiting team's fan who happens to live in Florida. And it wasn't a great time to be playing for that team. One thing that makes it a little better is that you make a little bit more money. So it's a benefit. I agree with you, Pete, that it's something that should be addressed in the CBA, but I don't think it's any sort of like we need to hold an emergency meeting, fix this before next year, or the league's going to be out of control. I think that the Panthers are awesome because of Bill Zito. Again, I think that he's used the lack of state income tax to help the team, but like they picked up Gus Forsling off waivers.
Right.
That's my biggest thing is I feel like both with Florida and Tampa is obviously, like you said, there's certain players that they probably got that the no income tax helped them get, but like their best players are players they drafted. Like they didn't. Well, and granted, you have to like you build the team around them, but like they didn't get Kucherov or Stamkos or Hedman because of the tax breaks. They didn't get Like they got Matthew Tkachuk maybe in part of that, but the only reason they were able to get Matthew Tkachuk is because they drafted somebody who at the time was an all-world talent in Jonathan Huberdeau.
And,
so
and to Ferraro's point when he was talking about Nico Mikkola, like they're not out here winning these massive free agent sweepstakes all the time and like being advantageous that way. Like a lot of this is them identifying players who have low stocks and buying in on them. Like the Oliver Ekman-Larsson 1-year deal, he was bought out by Vancouver. Like it wasn't because it was the tax break in Florida. It was because they said, okay, come in here, 1-year deal. Here's your money. We believe in you. Like look at Nate Schmidt, Nico Mikkola, like all these guys, they're taking bets on them in the short term, which I don't think that the tax thing has that much of a difference in a very short term more than a long term type situation.
Yeah, I think there could one day be like a Heatles situation, but it hasn't happened yet. And there kind of was one, like the Predators had that big free agency splurge where they signed Marchessault and they signed Brady Shea and they signed Steven Stamkos.
I think it helps there more.
Yes, if there were a team, say the Predators had like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some of the best players in the league that are on entry level deals right now. If they had young players who were very inexpensive and then they had a shitload of money to spend, it helps that team because they can go out and instead of adding 2 guys in free agency, they can add 3 on lower contracts.
But even that, it's like it still comes down to roster construction.
Yeah, you have to put yourself in that situation.
Like Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, both guys who went from no income tax states to Nashville.
Is Vegas?
Vegas is no
Nevada
income tax.
no income tax?
Yeah. So like,
and also the team fucking sucked. So like we're talking about it being an advantage. They were one of the worst teams in hockey.
Yeah, that's
and I know it's all,
right.
but like it goes both ways. And like you were saying earlier, these teams spent the first half of their existence not being relevant.
Yeah. So somebody said, how many players would only go to Florida at the trade deadline, though? I truly believe that the state income tax doesn't really have anything to do with that. Like it might have something to do with it, but like Brad Marchand didn't want to go to Florida because there was no state income tax. Brad Marchand wanted to go to Florida because he said they're probably going to win the Stanley Cup. Send me there.
Same with Seth Jones too. Like I don't know how much say he had in it, but like he was tired of Chicago because they sucked.
Yeah,
not because of the taxes.
He wanted to play in a state that didn't have the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes, exactly.
That's what he didn't care as much about what the tax situation there. He cared more about the Blackhawks not being there.
And also part of this too is like you want to say that Florida has the advantages. Like Toronto has an advantage in this fact that like the best players in the world come from Ontario or like Canada. Like there's other advantages that like they have, the resources that allow them to create or like to raise up the best players in the world. And then John Tavares wants to play at home. Mitch Marner wants to play at home type thing.
And like the additional money that you'll get in like the Toronto market on ad deals, brand deals type things.
And that money, like all the stuff that the cap has nothing to do with, the scouting department, what you're able to pay coaches and front office and stuff like that a team like Toronto might have an advantage in just because of how much money that team makes.
Yeah, it helps and it's a benefit, but it's not how these teams are built. It's not like they played their no state income tax card and then they got a bunch of good players. They drafted good players. Alexander Barkov was a draft pick. Sam Reinhart was a good trade. Again, the re-signing, you're more likely to be able to get players to re-sign on team-friendly deals, and absolutely that will add up at some point. If you have 3 or 4 guys who are a little underpaid, well, then that's one more guy who you can go pay in free agency, and you don't have to pay that guy that much in free agency to begin with because you don't have state income tax. So there's definitely a benefit. But where was it for a million years when the Panthers stunk?
They have 4 Stanley Cups. It's not like they have 10. Like the Florida teams have 4 Stanley Cups. And obviously that's a lot. But they're not winning every single year. As many as they've won, teams with taxes have won.
And the Stanley Cups were won with 2. I don't want to do the SpongeBob font like generational first overall picks, but like Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos are the biggest reasons Tampa won those. Nikita Kucherov, but like I'm saying, like those are bigger reasons, which is like they had the first overall pick. Like your issue could also be with the draft lottery, but in the case of the draft lottery, it's equal for everybody.
Yeah, I mean they drafted Kucherov, they drafted Vasilevsky, right? Like all their best players are players that they scouted and drafted.
Roster construction, baby.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to what Pete said at the beginning, where like it's something that they probably fix in the next CBA, but I don't think that it's the reason why the Panthers.
Yeah, like I don't think the league is broken because of it.
And also, GMs keep on voting Bill Zito as one of the best GMs in hockey, and I don't think they'd be doing that if they were like he's just a income tax merchant.
Right.
We all silly like the mayor.
I don't know. I think that they know that today is huge, and that you don't want to hop on a plane back to Edmonton.
Let's get to our friend Mike Ryan of Meadowlark Lebetard Show. You know him. He's a regular on this program. We love him so much. Mike Ryan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me again. This is a great day to win a cup. Hopefully this is the last morning I wake up as a one-time Stanley Cup champion. Looking forward to waking up, hopefully a two-time back-to-back Stanley Cup champion tomorrow.
Is your name going on the cup?
Yeah, immortalized forever. As an original 7 franchise, you invoke the Florida Panthers often when you talk about Lord Stanley. And yeah, if you look at last year's, I'm there. I haven't checked for myself, but I'm pretty sure.
You're the first Mike on the Stanley Cup. Last year, there was going to be the first Evan, but people slept on the fact that there was not yet a Michael on the Stanley Cup. Do you think that you do have such a waking experience tomorrow?
Hopefully I don't wake up at all because I'm partying the entire night. I don't know. This Panther team has played with its food a couple of times this postseason. Had an opportunity to put Toronto away at home. Decided it'd be more fun to do that on the road in Toronto. Had an opportunity to actually sweep Rob Rendamore and have fun with that meme, but they decided to give that game up. So I don't know. I think that they know that today is huge, and that you don't want to hop on a plane back to Edmonton. Because they've been so good on the road, there is this weird, like, well, I guess it's not the end of the world the way that it would be in previous years, but I really sincerely hope that they approach this game like they want to win the cup desperately. Now, I also wouldn't play the result. It depends. Maybe they come out completely flat and you can actually say that about it. But if they lose this game, it's not because they took it easy. It's because they're going up against a damn good team. Edmonton over these last 2 years could be an all-time team for all we know that just ended up running into another all-time team.
Well, I think that's kind of a question that I wanted to ask you is like, where do you feel Edmonton is in all of this? And where do you feel Connor McDavid and his legacy is as a result of this cup final? Because I have wondered, like, are the Oilers like running out of gas, or are they just running into the Panthers?
I think they're running into the Panthers, and normally I'm everybody's heard this time of year guy. I know Matthew Tkachuk is injured severely, and he's out there. He doesn't look like himself even the last couple of games. He's kind of turned it on. Forsling's dealing with some stuff. Everybody's dealing with some stuff, but I do think Edmonton's really missing Hyman. And while I think that player is overrated, the trait that he has affected Bob in this postseason. People have effectively at times screened on Bob. Toronto did a really good job of it. Corey Perry's doing a pretty good job of it for Edmonton. That's not to take away from Zach Hyman. If anything, they could use another body doing that. But to answer your question, I think this is a lot like the Spurs Heat series. They also met up back-to-back years. That first year was essentially the first time I've ever felt like an NBA Finals was a tie when Ray Allen hit that shot. And you could argue like, holy cow, San Antonio that year might have been one of the greatest teams of all time. They just ran into the Heat Big Three, who are also one of the greatest teams of all time. Hopefully it goes differently for a South Florida sports team and that San Antonio completely wiped the floor with them in the rematch. And we already know that that's a little different. But I do think typically too, you guys tell me, typically 2 Stanley Cups in a row don't really get you in that conversation. You need another one in a certain span. I think the fact that they've made 3 straight Cup finals and they're running into the generation's greatest player in Connor McDavid does give some additional juice if this team were to win, to have some all-time conversations and certainly frame their work in the dynastic conversation.
Okay, here's my keys to you becoming a dynasty, which you could become. Like, obviously, you got to win tonight, or you got to win this series, and you got to win back to back. This is going to be music to your ears. I think that part of this dynasty for the Panthers, and this is no insult to Brad Marchand, is to only keep Sam Bennett and keep as much flexibility as you can have in the coming years. I'm also saying this selfishly because I want Brad Marchand to make the most money he can possibly make. And I don't want him to be tempted by things like winning and coming back to that team. Like, go be the richest man, you beautiful, perfect angel, and get as much as you possibly can. But I think there is a path. I don't think that we're going to be having dynasty conversations if they do win this series, but I do think there is a path there, and that is by keeping flexibility. What would you do with all of these guys at this point?
Well, I think Sam Bennett's coming back, and I think it's going to be a number that aggravates certain people out there. But as I understand it, Sam Bennett doesn't like new people. He doesn't want to meet new people. He's very comfortable and happy here. And this is a good team. And when the Panthers made it to the Cup final as an 8 seed, you kind of look at everybody's age and you get tricked into thinking like, okay, what kind of run is this going to be? Because Barkov's been here for a decade, but Barkov's in the prime of his career. They still have a youngish core. I know they've played a lot of hockey and it'll catch up to them. Ekblad feels like he should be in his 40s. He's still in the prime of his career. I think maybe if Ekblad probably, unless he takes a major discount, is gone to make it work. But I think Sam Bennett is going to stick around here. Moreover, I kind of think it's a foregone conclusion. So I always find it interesting when I see think pieces over there, because that's not what I'm hearing. People are pretty confident that Sam and the Panthers already have a rather flexible deal already worked out.
Will you be at any of these? Like, are you going tonight?
Yeah, I'm going tonight.
All right. Do you have a credential?
No, I don't want to go as a member of the media. I want to get really loud, yell at Brad Marchand, yell at the Oilers, drink a lot, and cry if we win. And I can't do that as a media member. I never go to events as a media member because that ruins all the fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you would, and we all prefer when we go to these things, we like doing it in seats. We like doing it where we can see people being crazy, where we can be crazy ourselves. But I was going to say, if you had a credential, got to get on the ice after, got to find 63. He would ask he'd ask about your family. He would, oh my God, he'd win you over. He would let you hold the cup.
He'd leave you a Ring doorbell message. It'd be incredible.
Yeah. Good guy, Brad Marchand.
I'm so happy that story isn't true, by the way. Look, he's been a tremendous player, and I was on your show, and I called him a rotational winger, and I'll walk that back. He's been a tremendous bottom six forward for us, no doubt. And I think he owes a lot to that line that he is on. I told you a lot of people could replicate this on this line. Now, what he gives them defensively, that individual effort that he had in the last game is one of the more spectacular goals from an individual effort, where he doesn't even get the separation from speed. He gets a separation from strength. That is a quintessential Brad Marchand moment that he was incapable of when he played the Florida Panthers 2 years ago and effectively ended the Bruins dynasty.
All right. Well,
they had a dynasty? That's pretty nice.
Well, yeah, no, they definitely did not have a dynasty.
I like that.
Definitely did not have a dynasty.
I mean, that was a President's Trophy winner. That was the favorite out east, and he had a chance to kill the Florida Panthers in Game 5, and they never bounced back from that. They matched up the following year, and I think a good part of the legacy, if you want to talk about dynasty with the Florida Panthers, is to look what they've done to the rest of the East. They've made a lot of teams just pack it in and say, all right, we're going to start over. We cannot compete with this. Boston, Carolina, we'll see what happens this offseason. I don't think they've gotten the message. In fact, curious your opinion, I don't think Carolina's that good. If you actually rank the teams 1 through 8 in the Eastern Conference, the first round matchup would have been Carolina versus Florida. I told you guys before that series, I don't think they're good. I think they're the worst team that we played. Losing in 5 in the first round of the Florida Panthers feels a hell of a lot different than losing in 5 in the Eastern Conference final. All those teams feel so positive about them. Carolina always feels positive. This is progress. You're not. If this is an arbitrary ranking, if the teams in the Atlantic weren't beating the hell out of each other all season long, you'd be such a disappointment. You would clean house. So I'm happy Carolina actually thinks that they're good. Let them keep going. They are an afterthought. I don't sweat that team one bit. But New York decided not for us. Now Kucherov, every day that he stays in Tampa and he's not a Utah Mammoth, that means that they're not getting the point. So we'll just have to beat them next year for them to get it.
What?
Watch out for
That's
Carolina with
crazy.
Sam Bennett. You know, you're sleeping on Sam Bennett's next team. I kid.
That would be terrible, but they're not going to get Sam Bennett.
I don't think they're.
Where do you stand on where is like the Battle of Florida right now? Because the Panthers are on the verge of accomplishing basically the exact feat that Tampa did, in which we all called them a dynasty. 3 straight years in the Cup final, 2 wins. So like where is the Battle of Florida in the kind of like, do you hate Lightning fans? Do Lightning fans hate Panthers fans?
Yeah, we don't like them. The fact that they haven't gotten the hint and have kept trying to add to this core makes it fun. I think at the end of this, I'm happy to quickly rebut. Like, what's the total count? Well, hopefully that margin narrows after tonight, and we can have a real conversation. Tampa did great things in this state and set a standard that the Florida Panthers aspired to and failed at the hands of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And unlike other teams, unlike Carolina most notably, they got the message. They traded away arguably the face of their franchise, the franchise's all-time leader in points. They even got rid of a coach that was helming the wheel for much of the season for a team that won the President's Trophy. And they decided, you know what? We learned pretty thoroughly. We're not good enough. And I think more teams out east could take that lesson. I'm grateful that they don't.
All right, Mike, the chat has come around on you. The chat is saying like, oh yeah, this is good.
Very
They're
handsome.
Very handsome. Good hat. I think we might be doing a home and home. We might be talking to you on Friday. I don't know if you know about that. Do you know about that?
I do not know about that, and I think I'm in the host chair for Friday, so I'm glad I know about that. Great, would love to see you guys. I saw Pete appeared on Greg Cody's podcast, and it lived up to the billing. It's funny. Maybe it's because I'm not just spewing hate. I know this is a very pro Brad Marchand podcast that I'm on, and you guys do a great job of carrying water for him. Let me be abundantly clear. Still hate the guy. He can make great goals for my team. I care about the name in the front, not the one in the back. And I like you, also hope he goes out there in the free agency market and collects all the money that he needs. By God, cash in as much as you possibly can. Get the hell out of my life.
Okay, so that was a twist at the end, you saying that you didn't like Brad Marchand. Okay, I didn't know where you were leaning through this conversation.
He's been a good player. I'm grateful for his contributions, and hopefully he's just a mercenary that's in here to ring chase, and he's gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might ring chase and also win Conn Smythe. So you were confident that he would be a passenger, and you could just plug and play anybody on that third line. He's gonna win. He might win Conn Smythe.
Chat, make up tweets about nice things that Brad Marchand did for Mike Ryan.
That's right.
And then you're gonna be plastered on BR Open Ice. It's gonna be like game recognized game, and it's gonna be a picture of Brad Marchand like making you a cake.
Look, I'll deal with how disrespectful I'll be after he lifts a cup, provided that he just lifts a cup. And I was in the barn last year when they did it, and I was grateful that it wasn't the coronation of Connor McDavid capping off the greatest comeback in the history of sports. If McDavid were to come back against this team, I think Florida's that much better than they were last year. So I'm expecting I'm a little surprised, as someone that is routinely taking L's on Connor McDavid shots on goal props, that he's doing what some maybe casuals would say is being passive. I know he's really talented shooting the puck, but man, he is still dazzling out there. He's still very difficult to defend. Draisaitl's been crazy, but you mentioned the Conn Smythe. I don't think Brad Marchand deserves to be in the conversation, although I understand because of the established narrative and his name recognition. One thing that really confuses me, if you look at the lines, Sam Bennett minus 230, I guess that makes sense. What doesn't make sense to me is Sergei Bobrovsky at plus 1,000. When a goalie has put together the resume that he has consistently throughout the playoffs, usually they're in more serious conversation for Conn Smythe. And there's just something about Sergei that makes him a complete afterthought, no matter how good he is. And I heard you mention that he hasn't had the quintessential Bob game. I know that there have been some really high totals in this series. Game 4, I thought Skinner was good. I thought it could have been 6 goals in that first period. I didn't understand benching him. I thought Bob was excellent, despite Florida blowing a 3-goal lead. I think that these goalies are doing a really good job this series. And unfortunately for the Edmonton Oilers, the decision to move away from Skinner might be their undoing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that all three goalies in Game 4 were good. I thought that Skinner made as many big saves in one period as Bob or Pickard had to the rest of the way. On Bob being an afterthought for Conn Smythe, it's just because he was better in the first 3 series, and that makes sense. You were playing worse teams, and he was really good in those 3 series, and I think he's been fine this series. I think that right now Bob's probably, I was having this conversation with someone recently. I was like, maybe I would go Bob with my third place vote, but I probably wouldn't. It's like Conn Smythe right now, I'd probably say is Bennett, Marchand, and Draisaitl.
I'd say maybe McDavid.
Yeah, right. Or McDavid.
God, that's going to drive
They
me
both
crazy.
just have so many more points than anybody else.
No, I say, in fact, like
in
I've been
fewer
doing
games.
hedging. The way that I hedged last year was, well, if Edmonton's going to win this series, McDavid's going to be Conn Smythe, and I have a chance for a middle there. And I got all my Panthers futures, and I somehow got the McDavid Conn Smythe. The way that I'm hedging this year is I'm playing some on Draisaitl, though I'm not sure the Canadian media would do that. I do think that I've been really impressed with the strides that Leon Draisaitl has made defensively. I think he had an incredible, like even on that Marchand winner in Game 2 that kind of just slid in, that Brad it kind of didn't really get a stick on. The play that Draisaitl made to make that a difficult play for Brad was just outstanding. I had this debate with another Panther fan when they were talking about, well, McDavid's clearly the best player in this series. Who's second best? It's probably Barkov, right? And I'm like, no, because the gulf between the offensive talent that Draisaitl is and Barkov is much wider than the gulf that has slimmed down over the course of this season with Draisaitl. For his forechecking ability, he's just become a really dependable defensive forward for Edmonton. I've really been blown away by him. He was very clearly not right the last time these two teams played.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
All right, Mike, we and everybody in the chat loves you. Thanks so much. Maybe talk to you Friday, Mr. Host Boy?
Yeah, hopefully. If we don't...
You might be in Edmonton.
I'll be a barrel of nerves. But hopefully we get to be in that dynastic conversation. Hopefully you get to gloat about Brad Marchand and then quickly show him the door.
Amazing. I got the wheels turning. What if I get Brad Marchand on that? What if we get him to bomb that segment?
Do not do that to me. I don't want that. I don't want to see him.
Literally.
Look, this is not a game. This is personal, right?
Okay. Appreciate you.
Personal issue with the man. Everyone's just gonna have to accept that and move on.
All right. Well, best of luck to your team this evening. All right.
Let's go pants.
That's how he says that.
We
it's
wear
Mike
pants.
Ryan.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We all silly like the mayor.
I'm paying to watch these games. I want to watch these games. We watch 3-4 hockey games a night. That is the only avenue to legally do it. I want to do it. I want to pay for it. I want to get it, and I want to have a good experience. This is unacceptable, though. Yesterday, I said I had a bombshell about a major streaming service. Here it is. This is about ESPN Plus, and it's something that we discussed last night, and I'm going to bring it to the show. I wanted to make sure that I had enough evidence and that though this is something at this point, I feel we can only say I believe, I think I will present enough evidence that you will feel we've borderline got a smoking gun here. Okay? Here goes. Last night, for the second time this season, I realized when watching a live event on ESPN Plus that the game I was watching, though I had not hit pause or rewound, was no longer live. And the first time it happened on Saturday night, I felt stupid because I saw, what was it? Someone scored and Noah Philp scored. And I went to tweet like Noah Philp Calder campaign. And when I went to do it, there were clips on Twitter of the goal already from like NHL.com that was like 3 minutes old. And Kennedy and all these Oilers fans were already playing. I was like, how bad is my internet? Mm-hmm. And then I checked and I was minutes behind on the feed. And I was like, that's weird. So I caught up on ESPN Plus and went about the rest of my life. Last night, it happened again. And I was like, what is going on here? So I realized during a commercial break that ESPN Plus now, it has like the timed ad thing in the upper right-hand corner where it's playing you an ad. It's not showing you the ad from the original broadcast. So, for example, if you're watching a game that originally airs on Sportsnet, it goes to break and maybe you'll see something about Boston Pizza or some things that would be aired on Sportsnet. Instead, I'm getting almost like if you're watching Hulu, where you get 2 minutes left in this ad, 3 minutes left in this ad, and it's typically around numbers, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes or whatever. ESPN then returns to the game after that ad, and I believe they start you where the original broadcast rejoined. So they come back from break and they say, okay, we're back here and here's the stats for the goalie or whatever, and they continue on. But sometimes, if not all the time, the ads that ESPN has put into the ad breaks are longer than the original broadcast's ad breaks. So the game returns, and without you knowing it, you are no longer live. Let me summarize. And Sean, if you give the lower thirds here. I believe ESPN Plus is inserting ads that can be longer than the broadcast's commercial breaks. There you go. This eventually makes viewers' feeds no longer live, and they don't know that unless they manually check. Do you have any thoughts on this, either of you?
So you texted this last night, and my first reaction was, DJ's being dramatic. He's making his problem everybody else's problem. He's taking something that maybe is a skill issue, user issue, and applying it to the general public. And then last night, just out of curiosity, I checked to see where I was in my ESPN Plus feed in relation to a live game. This shit's fucking happening. It is absolutely happening.
I mean, I
was like 3 minutes, like game minutes behind where I should be on the live feed. This is not only happening, I don't even want to call it a conspiracy theory anymore because it's happening and it's absolutely inexcusable.
I explained it to my girlfriend this morning. It took me like 9 hours, and that's why I made sure I wrote out everything on the lower thirds and everything because it can be a little clunky to follow along with. She said, this doesn't sound like a conspiracy theory. It just sounds like, and I said, that's right. It's a conspiracy.
I was going to say
it's not a conspiracy theory.
Difference.
It's the uncovering of a conspiracy theory, Sean.
So that's my only thing, is I am not positive there's a conspiracy. I think this is just as likely a product of ESPN's ineptitude as it is a distinct
What's the,
No way.
Whose razor is it? The do not attribute to malice what could also
Arkham's
be
razor.
attributed to, who's it? Is it
Is it Arkham's razor?
Occam's razor? I mean, I know that's one of the popular razors.
That's basically like just the simplest solution is the most likely solution.
Hanlon's razor. It's an adage or that states never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. And Pete, you know, deep in my beliefs, I think that people aren't as malicious as we think they are. Sometimes they're just dumb. So it could be.
No, when we're talking about like multi-billion-dollar corporations and like I know that like Disney's app sucks and that's fine.
What I think it all most likely boils down to.
I think that this is maybe it's my cynic brain, but I think this is how do we squeeze the very last cent out of companies and advertising dollars. These consumers consumers aren't going to care or maybe even notice that we're rejoining 30 seconds late.
Yeah, I totally believe that they would do that. I am just not wholly convinced that they. It's kind of like the NFL with refs, where I'm like, I think the more likely option is just that they're bad at their jobs. But yeah. I would not be surprised to find out that they were doing this purposefully. The one question I did have Because I feel like a lot of times when I'm watching streams, the ad like very unceremoniously cuts and goes back. Was that part of your experience? Still?
There is like a harsh rejoin a lot.
Yeah. So that's part of my theory that it is ineptitude and not purposeful, because I feel like if it was on purpose, that would be a little bit more graceful of a transition.
Okay. I have now testified to my experience. Pete has testified to his. Sean, could you please play the video titled Smoking.gun.Dave? Okay, right now I'm watching a live sporting event on ESPN Plus. I will show you that it is live. There you see it is live. On 105, the time is 16:56. I will document that without touching the remote or the progress of this game,
We're about to see piss.
through ads being jammed in at commercial breaks that are longer than the actual breaks, this game will no longer be live, and I will be given no indication other than when I manually check myself. We are now a commercial break, and we are seeing this upper right ad, 135, 134. These things are often 2 minutes plus. Do we know if this is lining up with what Sportsnet's doing right now? Does ESPN got it like that? Let's find out. Add another commercial. Another 2 minutes. They're going to tell us about tires. I'm tired of waiting for live sports. Let's check in. Let's see what happens. So let's check in later in the game. And let's see, 14:47 it says is left in the third period. Oh, and no, we are well behind. Look at that bullshit right there. So we are going to, it's at 14:36. Okay, tough guy. I'll play around. Let's get live from 14:30 to 13:09. Unbelievable.
That's
minute
fucking
and 20
crazy.
seconds. That is longer than my second marriage. What a save by Stu. He is just the god. I've blown this wide open. I've blown it wide open.
That's incredible.
I rest my case.
It's just this has to be fixed. But before we go on, can we go back to the video? Can you show like the start of the video?
Like the very start?
Yeah, like that's fine.
Okay, right now I'm watching
hanging
a
out in Dylan
live
Gunther's house?
sporting event on ESPN.
Those walls are bare, brother.
Yes, you'll see to the right. Yeah. There you see it is live.
Before we move on, I just wanted to address that.
Okay, let the record show that as well.
I mean, regardless of whether it is ineptitude or purposeful, it definitely needs to be fixed. Like a minute and a half is fucking ridiculous.
Now, Pete, you brought up something that I thought the chat might feel, and you've remedied it very well, and you've quelled that concern in my eyes, which is that maybe it was just my experience. Maybe it was just a DJ problem, and I'm saying my experience means this is happening. You tested it for yourself. You said it happened to you. Here's what really made me feel, okay, this is going on. And this was before I took this video. We were texting about the problem. I tweeted this. I tweeted, on tomorrow's What Chaos, I will blow the lid off what I believe is an absolute crime being committed by a top streaming service unless I realize before then that I'm just using it wrong. And yes, the first response was from my friend Rob, who said, I can't wait till 2 hours from now when you say, my bad, I was using it wrong. But here are the other responses. Right. From It's Christina. Is it ESPN Plus and their new super long commercials that somehow make you end up being minutes behind live action so you can't check social media for fear of seeing spoilers? Or am I just using it wrong? Now there's two of us.
Yeah.
Not the only response. To that, Jody and Moose respond, I'm so pissed at this I can't see straight. Every commercial break, I sit there repeatedly hitting the fast forward and live buttons. When I choose to watch a live feed that I'm paying for, they delay it. Care to weigh in on this at ESPN Plus? Now, I placed a phone call this morning.
Sure did.
To ESPN customer service.
I'll say this. as somebody who does not like those types of phone calls, it was a very painful pre-show for me having to listen to this conversation. But
Why don't you like those
to
phone
your
calls?
credit, you are a hero because somebody has to make that phone call, and you did a great job.
Wait, why don't you like the phone? Like, you don't like making
I just
them,
don't.
or
I
you
just don't like confrontation. I don't like somebody who works in customer service having to like
Deal
their
with a problem
employers.
that's not theirs.
Oh, yeah.
like their employers' problems being made their problem, and I know that's like literally their job. It's just uncomfortable for me.
Hey,
But
to
you-
be fair, DJ was probably the nicest phone call I've
Very
gotten all
polite.
day.
Very
'Cause
polite.
Most of the time, they probably are getting screamed at for stuff that is
Oh
really
no,
not their fault.
I called and I said I have a problem with, or I have questions about the ESPN Plus service right now, and I said these are what I have questions about. This is what I'm trying to figure out. Do you think we could discuss this, and you think that you might be able to help me? And she was like, yeah, absolutely, great. And it was, I know what you're saying. Like, most of those people get calls that are like, I need this to work now. And like, we've all gone through that where you're like, why isn't internet happening in my house or whatever? But like, that's not the purpose of this. It wasn't to yell at this person, because obviously it's not their fault. I more wanted to know, like, what do you know about this? Is this
Have you heard
something
this
that
before?
yes, is this something that ESPN knows is happening? And there was the person, I'm not going to name them because they were so nice to me that I feel like they would honestly get in trouble for being as nice to me as they were. And we talked through a few things. Could it be that I don't have the correct level of ESPN Plus subscription? Because I checked what I have.
There's no level of ESPN Plus subscription that should put you minutes behind a game broadcast.
I love
That's
the
what I
idea
posited.
that they're like, you're broke, but not broke enough that you can't afford it.
She said, I don't think it is this, but which service do you have? And I said, I did not know there were levels. And I
Good problem
checked.
solving.
I said, I have Select. And she said, okay, there is Select and there is Unlimited. So we went through the descriptions of what each one are. And I think I have it right here. ESPN Select, which is what I have, probably what a lot of you folks have. All ESPN Plus live events, plus ESPN Originals, 30 for 30s, and E60s in parentheses with ads. That is $11.99 a month. For $29.99 a month, you can get ESPN Unlimited, which is all ESPN networks and services, including ESPN Plus. Pete, could you read that for me? This is really doing Pablo Torre Finds Out style.
With ads.
With ads. They both contain ads. I checked with this lovely person on this, and they said, quote, the truth is all ESPN plans have ads. It might vary. It might be more than each other, but they all have ads. And when I explained this specific problem to the person, they said it could maybe be a technical thing, but if other people are having this problem, it's something that basically she said could be a, quote, new arrangement with ESPN. And I said, I believe that that's what it is. I think it's a new thing they're doing because I haven't experienced this before. But the fact that I was having it and that other people were having it made her say, okay, like, I'm going to send this through to the team and whatever, and I'm going to stay in contact with this person. Believe you me, because this is a problem that should not be going on. And yes, Sean, I will give them the benefit of the doubt of maybe they somehow didn't know that they are putting in ads that are longer than the breaks and then bringing it back right at the start. It seems like work is being done.
A shred of that possibility.
It seems like work is being done to make sure this goes their way.
Yeah.
And their way is they get to sell those 3-minute ads or those 2-minute ads.
One extra
So
ad per break,
I'm still not completely convinced that this isn't at least partially due to their ineptitude. I will say I have not had the experience like that addict. I haven't seen that yet. The specific countdown, like Hulu style ads. So that's different. The only other thing I will say is it is not like, I feel like historically what they would do is if they really wanted to get those ads in, they would just ruin the actual game experience. Like they wouldn't try and fuck over they would just like make the breaks in the actual hockey game longer. So I just am not at a point where like I am fully convinced that they are just being like double middle fingers to the viewer. This strikes me as something that will eventually be rectified.
But if it gets rectified, it's because people make noise about it.
That's
Like
fair.
I
Yeah.
see this as something, them testing how much they can get away with and how much they can kind of push the limit to maximize profit.
That's
how I feel.
That's where that might be the difference. Is I don't know if it's necessarily malice and like an intentional. Let's see how far we can go. I think if anything, it is more of a we don't give a shit. We don't care about your experience. We're going to get these ads in, and you can rewind the fucking thing if you want because it's still there.
I think this is more a them banking on people not noticing, like me.
Which is,
I would not have noticed.
That's the biggest thing. I'm glad you bring that up. The biggest thing is that we don't notice.
Yeah.
Like if it told you, if it flashed
That's
up
such a
in
dumb
the
strategy.
bottom corner, it just said like go live ? And you had to keep hitting go live during the game, we would absolutely complain about that, but we would know what was happening.
You'd be like, this app sucks. Like have your complaints about the app and how it falls behind. But I feel like that would have been me for months. I would have been like, I'm so sick of the ESPN app falling behind, but I wouldn't have quite connected and pieced it together in my brain why it was falling behind. And then when I got there, I'm definitely confident that I wouldn't have been motivated enough to make a phone call, put this out there.
Oh,
and
I
say,
definitely
like,
would not have done anything about
definitely.
it.
I would just complain and be like, this. I would just quietly accept the experience becoming shittier and shittier. And I think that's what they bank on. And unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, fall into my camp.
To be fair, like, and maybe this is all, like, maybe I'm falling victim to this specific strategy of being like, we have sucked so bad in the past. Like, we can do this. And they're just going to think it's ESPN suck, especially with the hockey broadcasts, because that has been a thing over the years. Being like, these broadcasts suck, the sound sucks, the sound's not sunk up with the audio or like the video, like, so that's where I think my assumption that it was just their lack of or just their stupidity.
Sean, you'll need to scroll up to find this, but we've got some we've got information or updates on the account levels that are held by other people who have experienced this. It's Christina who had initially replied to my tweet saying they had the same problem, said that they have Select, which is the same as me. And
can I ask a question about that?
Wait, hold on. So they have Select, but I believe it was Eileen in there somewhere who says, keep going. Oh, yes. Eileen is experiencing it as well and has unlimited.
I would respect it more if they were just like, fuck you, you pores.
And I said this to the customer service person. I said, if this is simply a thing like Hulu where you got to throw money at it to make it go away, you got me. Like, I am
Right.
that. I am the one for that. I will throw money at the problem and pay way too much to just have a normal experience. And is that wrong? Yes, but
It's late stage capitalism, baby.
But I will do that. That's not what's happening here, though, because people who have the premium level, unlimited, are experiencing it as well.
Here's my question. I don't know what level I have, but I do know that oftentimes I don't get a commercial feed. I get like the ESPN waiting screen.
Yeah,
where
that's
it's
the other
like,
thing that confuses me.
I'm okay with that.
No. But what I'm saying is I get that a lot. And it's not an actual commercial that they're running, and my game still rejoins late. So I think whether you're getting a commercial or just this like in-game break, they're both lasting the same amount of time.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is this product's always been shitty. It's been shitty for as long as hockey has been on it. So the idea that like this is just another product them being shitty, and then them being like, I mean, just not caring or leaning into it because they're getting money from advertisers. Like, I just ultimately, whether it's the federal government or large corporations, I just don't have that much faith in people's intelligence.
Definitely.
Or the ability to keep things secret on large scales.
Neil Simmons says, my biggest gripe with the Select Unlimited plans is that they removed the multi-view option that used to come with my regular ESPN Plus account. I still have the multi-view option.
What do you watch
I
it
have
on? What do you watch it on? Like what
the
device?
ESPN app.
On what device?
TV?
Because I have had the
to
multi-view
ESPN,
thing on my Xbox app, but I've never had it on desktop.
I mean, I'm mainly
Or, like,
watching on a TV or on my Roku stick.
Okay, my Amazon Fire Stick has never had, as long as I've had it, the multi-view option, but
I feel like
the Xbox app has.
the multi-view thing is new to me. Like I just noticed it this year.
I agree.
really?
Yes, I
I've
also didn't
always-
experience that. I have that with like YouTube TV,
Yes,
but I
yes.
don't on
I've
ESPN.
always had the multi-view thing on my Xbox app, only the Xbox app, which has made no sense to me.
Oh, Neil says he's on the Xbox app.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Paulie has Paulie's razor is anything that can plausibly be explained by potential increased ad revenue is usually motivated by potential for increased ad revenue. It's definitely media buying related.
Another
That's
thing is,
my guess.
I don't think the NHL would be okay with this because it's not their ad money. So
Correct.
Like,
And yeah, I think that this, if there is a path to this being fixed pretty quickly, it's from the leagues that are being affected and their fan base is being affected by the behavior and morality
Now,
of the
I'll
streaming.
speculate-
know if this
though,
is an NHL thing.
I don't know if it's just an NHL thing, but this is something that does exist in other areas. Like our show, for example, we do ad reads during the show. Part of the show baked into this broadcast, if you will, is a couple ad reads, 2-3 ad reads. You can then choose for monetization purposes on like YouTube and Spotify, right, Sean? To
Bypass.
add in
like mid-roll ads.
like mid-roll ads.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly the same, but like I feel like there's precedent for something like this existing, which is we're already getting you to pay for this product, but we can still jam in a couple of more ads and kind of double dip.
Well, I think that it's because that comparison doesn't exactly work because you're still resuming the video on YouTube at the point in which you left.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Which, by the way, we're not heroes by any means, but like a year ago, we disabled mid-roll ad reads because it's bad for the user experience.
Yeah.
And
And that
love
you,
you
like,
guys,
you missed
and
part of
we
it.
don't want to do that shit. So no mid-roll ads. But I think the more apt comparison here is Twitch. Twitch is a really, really good example of this because if you watch a Twitch streamer, they will, and you're not subscribed to this Twitch streamer, they will fucking pepper
Yeah,
you
sometimes they'll just
with
fuck you.
intrusive ads that take you away from the stream, and you'll miss parts of the stream,
you'll see
and then
in
you'll
the
have to
comments,
rewind to go back. So they basically force you to subscribe, and like, if you want to be able to watch this streamer without getting absolutely hammered over the head with ads, you got to pay.
Yeah. And somebody brought up another thing. Who was it here? Brandon. Wait until this affects live sports betting. And that's another thing. Like, there's too much money at stake that I think would negatively be affected by a purposeful fucking up of the broadcast experience for me to genuinely believe that unless ESPN is really that fucking dumb and they were just like, no one will notice this. NHL won't notice this. Sports books won't notice this. We'll get away with this. I just have a hard time believing that. So again, it all comes back to them just being dumb.
Yeah, this is crazy. So ESPN, you've been bagged, caught red-handed.
And
Pablo Torre, you are now second place.
there is
Our pal DJ is the number one investigative journalist in podcasting.
there is precedent for this show
He's a journalist.
calling
His
out.
words, not mine.
There is precedent for this show calling out part of the ESPN Plus viewing experience and then them promptly changing it.
That's true.
Not saying that it was our fault.
The other
we
one
never
was
got
way
given
more
credit.
fun. The
Yeah,
other
it
one was way more fun, making fun of their live games. Well,
Yes.
maybe they had to change it because they were no longer offering live games, slightly delayed games.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
why they changed
It's
it.
all making sense now.
Yes.
You've got that. That was the one that got me.
They need to pull an Oreos and find a new way to come up with saying what sounds like live games, but it's not live games. Much in the way that
Double stuff.
STUF is nothing.
Games that are happening right now. They're happening right now. You're not watching
games
live.
that are happening. Your games, your life.
your games roughly at the time in which they are occurring in real life.
We've blown it open. Something needs to change, though. And
work.
really, I don't know what the solution is because I'm paying to watch these games. I want to watch these games. We watch 3-4 hockey games a night. That is the only avenue to legally do it. I want to do it. I want to pay for it. I want to get it, and I want to have a good experience. This is unacceptable, though, and I don't know where, like, personally as the consumer I can draw the line. I can't say, all right, I'm canceling ESPN Plus. I won't do it. So other people, can you do it? Because I have to watch these games for my job.
Yeah, they have you by the balls, and that's unfortunate. At the very least, this uncovering allows you to be aware of what's happening so that when they rejoin a game, you can hit go live and make sure that you are where you're supposed to be.
Yes. And fair. Catherine says, no, not your games, your life, because you literally can't watch local games.
That's true.
So you are
Yeah,
not
thing.
games,
Yeah.
your life.